a conspiracy theorist would say also that many of the children in the league are the children of NBA players and other pros who played overseas who birthed children with white women and made these extremely light-skinned children. But
I have a theory though. Fat white women make good black athletes.
Oh, we gotta cancel my next meeting. We got some talking to do.
We have a very, very special guest on the show with us today. He's a scholar, author, activist, and media personality. Please welcome the one and only Dr. Marc Lamont Hill to the Fumble.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Good brother. Shalom, man. What size is that t-shirt?
Man, extra medium. You know, What's funny is I was about to change. I was running from my mani pedi, you know what I mean, to make this on time. And I was going to change, but I said, you know what? It's okay. You know what I mean? Gotcha. They won't it's a place of love. It's a safe space.
Now you look good, man. You look well groomed. The beard is doing immaculate things. I'm happy for your aesthetic, man.
It's great, man. I'm just happy it's gray. The gray is coming in.
I see that. Working with Joe is stressing you out, man.
I was gonna say it was the Sixers, but
you know what? Let's get into that out the gate. I think the Sixers are in a really interesting spot. I love VJ Edgecombe. Obviously, you love Maxey. I love Kelly Oubre. You got a lot of good young talent on the wing. Except you have these two old dinosaurs who are clogging the books in Paul George and Joel Embiid. What is the strategy for your team going forward, man?
Well, you and I might disagree on that Kelly Oubre thing, but the bigger issue is not him. Obviously, he's playing well this year. He's actually playing really well this year. It's figuring out a plan for Joel Embiid and for Paul George. 2 years ago, I thought the Sixers needed to make a decision with Joel Embiid. And I thought the best decision at that moment, given health issues, was probably to trade him. I love Joel Embiid. I'm a huge fan of Joel Embiid. I just didn't know how many miles he had left. And it seemed to me that it's better to sell high. But they extended the contract and they kept going. He hasn't played a whole lot of basketball since. And it's not because he doesn't want to. He's not lazy. He's not. His body's just failing him, you know. And so, you know, the idea was if we can get one healthy season and we can get Paul George here, we have a legitimate shot to get to the finals. That was the logic last year. Wasn't a terrible idea. If you're going to go all in, that's how you do it, right? Suddenly you have a solid team. You have a really strong starting five. You can switch everywhere defensively. You got a lot of offensive weapons, but neither of them played a whole lot of basketball. And it seemed to me, particularly with the Paul George piece, that once we started losing, he didn't have the motivation to come back. So there was no urgency from that team. This year, optimistic again, 4-0. Looking good, feeling good, team looked good. But the thing that was interesting was we were playing much better basketball when some guys were off the floor. And that's always a red flag to me. So now the dilemma you have is you got a guy who's injured who makes more money than God. You're not going to get him in a trade, not for another 2 years when it's a fading contract. So you kind of got to ride it out and kind of build around and hope that you get lucky in the draft, or hope you get lucky with a kind of diamond in the rough. And when JoJo's on the floor, he also has to play a different kind of basketball than he's probably played the last few years.
It looks bad. It looks bad for him right now. I ain't gonna lie.
I watched
that leg.
That leg. Again, he's lumbering, and it's making him defensively. It's making him much. I don't say liability, but he's not. But there's no rim protection like before. He's not able to recover. And every time he runs up and down the floor, I get worried for him. So that's a challenge. We have a backup. Who's athletic and young. That helps. But it's hard to deny his offensive gifts. So when he's on the floor, you got to play. But now there's the question about whose team it is. And I hate for that to be the question. It's not a question for people watching, but it's a question when he's on the floor.
And y'all aren't being honest about reporting his injuries. I saw that y'all just got fined $100,000 because y'all said that Embiid was going to be out and then he played.
So there's two things happening, right? One is the league is just on everybody's ass right now because of all the gambling suspicions. One of the things that's come up is when do you report injuries? At what time do you report injuries? When do you upgrade somebody? When do you downgrade somebody? Because they're worried, so they want to be above board. So I think people are just paying more attention to what's happening with these reports than before. It's not that anything different is happening. A lot of times guys think they're going to play and they don't. We're used to that, but when they say guy's doubtful, like today they upgraded him for the Warriors game, but about 5 minutes before we recorded this. I mean, I think he just feels better, and it's a national game against the Warriors, and he likes that kind of stuff. So I think a lot of it is just people giving us more scrutiny than they do other teams. But then, the Sixers have a long history of doing some funky stuff with injury that I can't ignore, even though I want to.
You had where do I want to take this? I have two questions that are really, really important for me to ask. Let's start with Chris Paul.
Yes.
Obviously.
My favorite.
Yeah. So CP3, who announced his retirement this year, has been one of the most important figures in basketball over the last 20 years. Probably the best point guard, second to Steph Curry of his generation. Getting cut, essentially, in your retirement season is something that I've never quite seen before, right. Somebody of this stature. Does this reinforce the idea that athletes should be more self-indulged and prioritize self over team success and loyalty?
I mean, there's a couple ways to look at it. The first thing is the Clippers are a terribly run organization. They have been for a very long time, with very few moments of interruption in that. And the moments where they were not terrible, it's because Chris Paul was carrying them on their back, along with Blake Griffin and other guys. They were well coached. They had some other things going on. So the fact that they were cut.
Wait. Doc Rivers is a good coach? I just want to hear you get that on record. Sorry.
They were well coached, is what I'll say. I do think Doc Rivers is a good coach. We can have a Doc Rivers conversation in a second. But when you talk about the Clippers, they're a poorly run organization. So of course, when you see something like this happen, the Lakers would never do this, right? You got to say Chris Paul deserves better. But I'm also going to say something else. And I love Chris Paul. It's like a living color, right? It's like, that's my man. Nobody better say nothing about Chris Paul. Chris Paul wears on people. Chris Paul is intense. Chris Paul is right now demanding excellence. And that might be what he should do. But this team ain't built for that. So it is a mismatch. Chris Paul on the court in his prime was one of the greatest trolls of all time. One of the reasons I love him, right? He's tough. He don't take no shit. He'll fight back. He'll also get you out of your mindset. That works in a winning situation. But if the team is apathetic and Chris Paul's standing out there, and he's standing next to Tyronn Lue, and he's saying, I know much about basketball as you do, and the reports I'm hearing behind the scenes is that there was a lot of tension between those two. And if you don't respect the leadership and you're speaking out at a moment where it ain't winning time, it can be an ugly fit. I don't think he should have found out through the mail effectively. I don't think he should have found out the way he found out. Now, other reports have said that they came and flew to him and had the conversation with him in person. I've heard different accounts, but whatever it is, if this is your farewell season from the team that you put on your back, they might have to eat some crow and just let you ride it out, even if you are a pain in the ass. Yeah. But one more piece to this, and this is the piece where I'll throw them a little bit of bail. They're putting them in a position to maybe have a successful final season. He can go anywhere now.
OKC.
So OKC is where I would like to see him go because that's his best chance of winning a championship. However, one that almost never works. T-Mac did that at the Spurs. It seems like that'd be the year they don't win. But also, OKC has a real rotation. They have a team that doesn't need anything, and to add somebody he can't make them better, but he can extend some minutes. He can give people a couple of days off. I don't know if that's how he wants to win a championship. I don't know if that's how he wants to finish his career playing, 6 minutes a night. You know what I mean? I watched Kyle Lowry do that for the Sixers. I don't know if that's the kind of way he wants to end his career. Would he rather do that, or would he rather compete for a championship in a real way in a place like LA Lakers? Or I mean, they might be getting somebody else soon too, or come east and put in some real minutes on the team.
Houston, they need a point guard desperately.
They do. Would you do that, or would you? But let's say hypothetically, Giannis makes it to the Knicks, which seems like more and more likely. Do you want to be the backup or even third string point guard on that Knicks team and really compete, at least get to the finals?
No, I think Deuce McBride is a better player today than Chris Paul as a backup.
Of course he is. But again, you could be like Gary Payton in Miami. You know what I mean? You might be the third string point guard. You just might want to be on the. I'm saying at least you could play. I don't know OKC. I don't know if he plays. I don't know what y'all think, but I don't know if he plays in OKC.
On the Joe Budden podcast, you also have Pablo Torre come on and kind of talk about his revelation with the Clippers findings surrounding Kawhi Leonard and KL2 Aspire. What was the biggest takeaway from your conversation with Pablo Torre regarding that entire debacle?
There's a couple things, right? One, by the way, people have very different takeaways from that interview than I did. There were people, some of my co-hosts, who told me off the record. I think off the record. Yeah, I say off the record because I don't think they said on the record. Like, they don't fuck with Pablo. Like, he's a rat. They think he's operating in bad faith. They think there's a lot of people who don't see him as the brave, courageous journalist, unpacking and exposing corruption in the league. Like, some people see him like somebody. Now, I do see him that way. No, I don't. I see him as doing a good job. I don't assign any character, good or bad, to it. I think he did a good job figuring this mystery out. I think that he doesn't have a duty to expose everybody in the league. If you find one, you find one, right? I don't think the Clippers are the only team doing it, but they're the only ones that got caught, right? So at this level, and I'm okay with him unpacking it. What I learned from the interview was just how brazen they were and just how stupid they were. On Twitter, I watched the kind of back and forth between Mark Cuban and Pablo Torre, and I was like, okay, I see the other side. Okay, maybe it's ain't so bad. Then when I actually looked and saw like the emails and the names of the accounts and all, I was like, y'all, you literally walking around with a smoking gun. Like, you're literally just walking around after murder just with a gun smoking. It's like, what are y'all doing? But that's sort of the arrogance of
say it. Rich white men, say it.
Yes, because it's not just billionaires. You're right. It's a particular kind of billionaire. They tend to be rich. They tend to be white men.
Yeah.
Hove would have never. You know what I'm saying? And so I gotta agree with you on that. So yeah, it was fun to watch, and it was a great conversation to have with him. On the list of things I'm outraged by in sports, it wouldn't make my top 5. But I do understand if I am a small market team, because everybody got money now. But if I'm a small market team and I don't have the ability to attract a free agent through these extracurricular activities in the same way, not because I ain't got the money, but because I don't have the same things to offer. You can just offer more in New York or LA or where rich people go, like Miami. Like, you can offer, levels of things that you can't offer if you're in Indiana.
Nobody ever signs in Miami.
Where are you, Rodney? Where you at, by the way?
It's Art Basel. I'm in Miami playing tennis and off the grid. You own a house in South Orange, right? What are the property taxes like there?
I actually rent a room in South Orange. This is the room that I rent. My family and I live in this room. It's a cozy room, especially with all of us here.
Okay. I'm gonna chill.
When you can you do? I'm sorry, Rodney. When you cross your arms like that, the shine, the glimmer from your watch, kind of blinded me for a minute. So can you do me a favor? And the level of wealth that's coming from,
I'm seeing a lot of original black art back there. Those aren't prints. That's really powerful to see, man.
Posters.
It's good to see.
What are you talking about? I got these from Canal Street. These are posters.
Oh, okay. I thought you were like the French stealing black art.
No. My middle name's Lamont, but it's just some hush.
We got a little off track there, but Mark, do you feel like there needs to be some punishment for the Clippers? And if so, what should the punishment look like?
First of all, there has to be accountability here because they colored outside the lines, and again, you could argue, there's a natural consequence. Like, they cheated and got Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. They already lost. I don't know how much more punishment they need. But I think that the normal punishment in a situation like this, to me, is draft picks and money. That, to me, would be a reasonable. If it was college, you say, "Oh, you can't play in a tournament for a few years," but you can't tell a team they can't play in the playoffs because it creates so many other logistical challenges. So
they ain't making that no way.
That's what I'm saying. More natural consequence. That's what I'm saying. Like, what do you give the man who has everything? Right? How do you punish a team that has nothing? Like, all you can do is take their draft picks away.
They don't even have those though. They lost those to OKC in that trade. It's just
that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't feel pity for the Clippers. It's just they're going like they did it. Like Ho said, they did it to themselves. Like, they had SJ and Trey, gave them away. They're never going to win.
Yeah, they should make them play a season in Philly. That should be.
I didn't hear you.
They should make him play a season in Philadelphia. I think that would really show them.
Philadelphia's going to come up. We're fine. We're fine.
Let's get into the gambling debacle, because that took the sports world by storm. That was like the craziest thing. Did it shock you, though, that the people that are at the forefront where other people are not being named?
No.
Yeah.
You like, first of all, the perp walks are all gonna be the black people. It's like Raheem Jenkins, Michael Robinson, so and so. Name them, their faces, their yearbook pictures. They're tied to Russian gangsters, Italian mobsters, right? They get real generic when they talk about the organized crime families that are actually power in this. But when they get the people who are in the front line, talking into their lapel at the poker table, suddenly they want to say everybody's whole name, their date of birth, their social. That's just the norm, unfortunately. I'm not surprised. The particular players that got named, I mean, some of them I had heard things about. Some of them I knew were gamblers. So I wasn't stunned. I think what's more shocking, and I can't say it just because I can't, but there's a couple more names that are going to come out in the next 2 weeks that I think you're going to be like, oh. And I think that's what's going to be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You gotta follow Samaria, just because I know you want to touch on.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Do you feel, has your experience as a sports fan changed since gambling has become so mainstream and normal?
That's a great question. A little bit, because I feel like I'm questioning more. Or if something happens, like if it's an egregious drop, I'm like,
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if it's something that happened, like Rodney and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, who was that? Was that James Harden, who had like 20 points the first half and nothing? You start to question what's going on, So yes, it kind of has changed.
I grew up around conspiracy theory and conspiracy theorists. And so
hold on, Samaria, for the record, he grew up as a part of a cult.
Right.
I have heard this story on
That's why I say conspiracy theorists.
Yes.
Like, we the OGs of this shit, right? Like, we don't just spread them, we make them, right? So I'm not against conspiracies. I tend to have a healthy suspicion of them because I think sometimes the truth is less interesting but more likely. But when it comes to gambling, I believe a lot of the suspicions, I believe a lot of the conspiracy theories and conspiracy theorists. Not all of them. Like, is it possible James Harden just couldn't put up one more point in the second half? Sure. Only because it's such an absurd, like, he needed 22. He had 21 in the first half, and he doesn't score another point in the second half of basketball, and he's one of the greatest offensive weapons in the history of basketball. I get how it's funny looking, but it's so funny looking that you're like, he wouldn't do that. Like, it'd be too obvious. I think it's just one of those things that unfortunately happens. Oh. But I could be persuaded otherwise, to be clear. But that wouldn't be my first instinct. But when I see so many guys, not so many, when I see a significant number, though, a noteworthy number of people, the turnovers, the late pulling themselves out of the game late with mysterious injuries or phantom injuries, it's like, I'm starting to lose some of my faith in the game. It's just like when the refs were cheating, and again, it wasn't a lot of them, right? But it only take one Donaghy to be like, oh, are they all doing this? It only takes 4 or 5 players. And the thing about basketball is one player can affect the game so much. And then when you start talking about prop bets, forget the line, because the line is a whole other thing, right? But when you talk about prop bets, all you need is one guy. I almost wish we could reduce and I'm not saying it's possible, and I don't know a lot about gambling, but I almost wish we could reduce it to like 1 or 2 players on each team. Something where it just limits the ability of, like, I'm using Kelly Oubre only because you mentioned him and my wife has a crush on him. Yes, that's why I'm hating on Kelly Oubre.
Okay.
For the record, everybody's wife has a crush on Kelly Oubre, but
that's a fact.
But if you say Kelly Oubre is going to make 5 threes and he's 4 for 4 and doesn't fire one up, I have a lot less faith in his. I trust that Tyrese Maxey's not going to do that. That he's not going to take or not take a shot to cover a prop bet. I trust that LeBron James won't, and so forth and so on. But when you get to the third or fourth or fifth best player on the team, partly just because of how much money they made, you know what I mean? I feel, and how much more susceptible they could be to this, I start to worry. I know that's not the solution. This is just me saying I'm desperate for a solution. And I don't know if there is one, but I'm desperate for one so that we don't have to do this. You know what I mean? I'm not a gambler. So maybe if I was a gambler, I'd feel differently about it. But also, for me, as a fan, I don't gamble partly. I know enough about basketball to gamble on it. The problem is, when I'm watching the Sixers, the only thing I want to see is the Sixers win. And if I got $10,000 riding on the other guy making one more three and we're up 2 with 10 seconds left, I don't want to be rooting against the Sixers because I don't want to lose my money. But I also don't want to lose my money. So I don't want to put myself in that position. And I think prop bets in particular can put you in weird positions as a fan. And I watch sport at this point in my life just for the fandom, just for the fun of it. It's not a financial enterprise for me.
Yeah. That's an antiquated approach to sports these days. It's all about gambling for a lot of people.
Fact.
I want to talk about something that I heard you say actually today. You said that today's NBA athletes are mentally softer than athletes of the past. Do you think there's any correlation? You did. You said it on the pod because you were talking about the fragility of athletes not being able to handle fans talking.
That kind of stuff. Yeah. In that context, yes.
Yeah. So do you think there's any correlation between that softness that you were talking about and basketball now being an upper middle class sport?
I'm trying to avoid making a light skin joke. So I'm
thank you for stopping colorism in our community, brother.
Yes, that's right. That's an interesting question. I hadn't thought about that before. It's a wonderful question. It's a wonderful implicit point you're making, right? As these players get more middle class, partly because there's more second generation players, also because basketball has become so, it's money driven from the beginning. You need money to play in a way that when we play AAU and Sunny Hill and all this other stuff, we just went outside, we played. If you were good enough, you got put on a team, and that was it. Now these kids got trainers. Like my son is 3.5, and I'm already like once he hits 6, I'm getting Doc Rivers.
Oh, so you want him to not make it to the league? Got it.
Austin Rivers was pretty good.
We're not gonna do this. Continue.
You're a hater. Austin Rivers was a monster.
He was, but Doc wasn't there for that boy. You know that. It's been documented.
You think the nanny? You think the nanny got him?
It wasn't Doc.
There's no disrespect to Doc Rivers.
Doc was living in LA. His son was living in Florida. Let's keep it a buck.
Wow. So you think the fact that Doc Rivers is one of the NBA greats of his generation, great point guard, not elite, but great point guard, just happened to have a son that becomes All-American, the best kid in high school, an elite player at Duke, and then makes the NBA. You think that's just because? Who do you think did that?
So,
the Police Athletic League.
Let's not focus on
Big
Doc
Brothers,
Rivers.
Big Sisters.
DNA does matter, but there are also some people who daddy wasn't, and they ended up being all-time legends. So it's exactly. His dad was in the league actually, but
I'm sorry. I thought you meant wasn't like they wasn't around, like they were bad fathers.
No, I meant athletically, like they had.
Oh yeah. No,
let me stop cursing.
No. I mean that Jalen Rose's dad was a monster. So was Dwayne Wade's. No, I mean it a different way.
Yeah. But I don't want to fixate on Doc Rivers. But I just wonder sometimes because I know that basketball has changed so much culturally. Like you said, it's a very expensive sport to play now. It's almost like golf and tennis in some regards. Does that change the kind of people that play?
A conspiracy theorist would say also that many of the children in the league are the children of NBA players and other pros who played overseas who birthed children with white women and made these extremely light-skinned children. But
I have a theory though. Fat white women make good black athletes.
Oh, we gotta cancel my next meeting. We got some talking to do.
I have a theory on this.
Well, this tracks, right? Because so often when you think about black athletes that get attracted to the white mid, Samara's like, you don't have to weigh in on this because I don't want you to be held accountable for this absurdity. But again, these are just conspiracy theories that are being floated. It's not my position nor Rodney's. We're just floating the ideas that are being floated.
No.
Yeah, I saw somebody say, I think on TikTok, that that the baddies, the IG baddies, aren't creating athletes either.
Yeah, no.
I don't know.
We'll know in 16 years.
Oh, you said we'll know in 16 years.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we find out.
The Eagles have lost back-to-back games. This is the second time that's happened this year. They're 8-4. They're not horrible, but Philly fans are like, so much so they're so mad that they egged the OC's house. Who do you feel like is culpable for their struggles? And do you think it's AJ Brown in his antics?
So let me preface this by saying I have intentionally stopped watching football. So sincerely, but
why?
After Colin Kaepernick, I just never went back.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. We don't even have to talk about
that.
No,
it's okay. But you raised. I can't get to the X's and O's of it. But what I can tell you is, one, I want to speak to the fans egging the offensive coordinator's house. I don't think I've felt this proud as a Philadelphian in a long time to hear that. That's exciting just from a fan perspective. Like, I remember when we lost the World Series to the Toronto Blue Jays, and Mitch Wild Thing Williams gave up that home run to Joe Carter in the 9th inning, and we went to his house. Yeah, what? Why is everybody see? This is the problem with you outsiders. You don't understand our life. You don't understand our ways. And y'all both looked at me with the craziest look like that. It was weird. The Eagles, first of all, Philadelphia is very much what have you done for me this week town. And the amount of grace that the city has given them is actually extraordinary. Part of that is because of the Super Bowl last year. But if you remember, the Eagles started off like 8-0, 9-0, whatever it was. They had an extraordinary record 2 years ago, and then just plummeted at the end of the season. There are people who are fearing that that's what's about to happen again. So there's that fear that's building up. The offense is where the problem seems to be very clearly. A lot of people are starting again. Jalen Hurts got a whole lot of love, a whole lot of support. Now people are saying, well, hey, wait a minute. Maybe Cam Newton wasn't all the way off. Maybe he's not the elite top 5, top 6 quarterback that people think he is. I don't know enough about football to make a passionate case, but it does seem like they're underperforming. Losing to the Bears isn't the worst thing, but NFC East, rivalries. Those games are always close. No matter how good or how bad a team is, every NFC East game is going to be tough. So losing to Dallas, you might not feel so. You can explain away losses, but what you can't explain away is how the offense keeps stalling in the clutch. So if they lose another one, somebody's getting fired. And if we don't make it to the NFC championship game, the head coach is getting fired. I can tell you that for sure.
Wow.
Because they wanted to fire him before. I do have another football question.
I don't watch football.
But it's not. It's about the Russell Wilson. We talked about this earlier this week in Trayvon Boykin. Do you feel like why do you feel like Russell is always like the butt of jokes and people are so comfortable?
I think there's a few reasons. I think there's so he is.
I mean, I just want Mark's.
I think reason number one is people are, particularly in this hyper-masculine context, uneasy with somebody who doesn't perform hyper-masculinity in a certain kind of way, who articulates values that are not foreign to us at all, but that don't get necessarily talked about publicly in the same way. So he's talking about family and children and God and all these things that don't get talked about a lot. And so there's a way that people are very much like, I don't know. And, watching the nice guy, the square, win is not what people want to see. Not in this world. Then reason number two is he deserves it, right? Every teammate, lots of teammates say he's and there is a way. It's sometimes that people who perform the morality end up looking like they're just taking the moral high ground and like they're morally stunting on everybody. Like, I'm better than you. And there's a subtlety to that. Like Reggie White back in the day talked about God and all that stuff, but it never felt like he thought he was better than you. It felt like he was almost ministering to the world, except for that moment where he left the Eagles and went to Green Bay and said God told him to take the money. Rest in peace, but that guy. But when we talk about, we don't. It's up forever in Philadelphia. Understand that. But I never felt like that with him. I don't feel like that with Steph Curry, who talks about faith and love and family and stuff. I don't feel like he's talking down to the ministering. But there are people who feel like Russell Wilson does that. I haven't experienced that with Russell Wilson, but I don't watch enough football to say if their concerns are legitimate or not. But I know people feel that way. But the idea of him in his prime being, separated from teammates, having his own office, being disconnected, not doing the team stuff. Now, some of that is a little bit of race too, because quarterbacks are known for being a little bit distant and being a little bit above the fray and acting like they're better than folk, and because they feel like it's their team. And I suspect that if Tom Brady were doing all the things that Russell Wilson were doing, we wouldn't have the exact same response if Brady were doing that in his prime. And he may have been, we wouldn't know. So I think it's a couple things, and I think too often it becomes y'all just hate him because he's a nice guy, and everybody's like, no, f- that guy, he's an ass. And it's like, no, family, we can come together knowing that it's both.
He just doesn't feel culturally aligned, which I think makes him an easy target. It's one thing to, we recognize that you are black, but you're black in a different way that doesn't feel comfortable. And I think that's a part of the problem. I got a couple more questions, and I kind of want to do a bit of a Z-Way situation here, right? Like I won't go too far left, but would just love a couple of short, concise answers for these questions, if you don't mind. Okay. Do you think that athletes should be allowed to use HGH for recovery?
Absolutely.
Okay. You played in one of the worst pickup basketball games of all time. At what point will you stop living in yesteryear and pick up a more age-appropriate sport?
My pickleball racket is around here somewhere.
Okay.
But I have retired from basketball.
Congratulations.
I focus on pickleball, golf, and some little martial arts.
Thank you. We appreciate that. The Joe Budden podcast has a new member in Mona Love. What mid-season NBA acquisition would you compare her signing to?
Rasheed Wallace in Detroit.
Slam dunk right there. What is one thing that you wish all black men could experience at least once in their lifetime?
Every joke I had was inappropriate. I had three of them. They were all.
They said white women. No, I'm kidding.
No, that wasn't one of them, Rodney. No, all of us are on South Beach. To answer your question, what is one thing? Good love.
Okay. Do you think we, as a community, overcomplicate love and relationships?
No, we undercomplicate it.
If you marry someone and they pass away, and then you remarry, and then that person passes away, assuming that you had nothing to do with either deaths, who should get first dibs on you in the afterlife?
Why can't we all be together?
You're a sick, nasty man.
Where are you getting these questions?
You got me off in two spouses and I'm the sick one?
Those are, I had some.
But I wouldn't remarry if my wife passed away. I wouldn't remarry.
Oh, it'd be season. It'd be season.
No, I meant that the loss would be so devastating that I couldn't find another partner. You ghoul.
Samaria, if you believe that, then
that's a fact. That's a fact.
I do believe that.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
All right. Well,
with one caveat, but we'll talk about Rihanna later. Go ahead.
No, we appreciate you, man. It's always an honor. It's always a privilege.
I'm kidding.
I'm
totally kidding. Can I plug something before we go?
No, please, please.
I thought you were going to ask me a Brian McKnight question. That's actually what I thought you were going to ask me.
I started to, then I was like, because you've interviewed his kids. That's a different level. You're entering Cameron and Cuba Gooding, Omar Gooding Jr. See, now I said the thing.
It's up.
See?
No, it's up. Omar, you see that? Get them bars ready. He probably got a hot 16 for every podcast already, just in case.
Yeah, I did that. Yeah, you're entering Cam territory of pettiness, but please.
I wasn't being petty. The funny is, I wasn't trying to be petty. I'm
Why did you interview his kids? Why did you interview that man's kids?
See, when you say it, like when you ask the question like that, it's you set me up to only seem petty. They deserve to be heard.
Yeah,
they deserve to be heard. If Brian McKnight says Marc Lamont Hill is a piece of shit, fuck that guy, and I know that he's like a bad parent, hypothetically. I don't go find his kids. But Brian McKnight went on a public tour talking about his kids. He brought his kids into the public. And then he did an interview talking about his kids where he mentioned me. So the only reason I responded to him at all was because he mentioned me. So and I still want to go bring it up. Joe asked me. So I was like, oh, I got to answer it. Joe's the boss. But then somebody reached out to me and said his ex-wife and his kids, his son, Brian, the original Brian Jr., wanted to be heard. And so, Samara, you don't laugh at that. Samara,
you're right. It's not fun.
I mean, I get the absurdity of having two juniors. Unjunioring your kid is like crazy work. Like I didn't even know it was something you could do. I didn't even know that was in the rules. But none of my business. Again, but he gave a public stage. He went on a public stage that millions of people have seen now through clips, and said, "This is about my kids." And so the kids are like, "Well, can we say something back?" And so for me, and they asked, so do I say no? I'm not going to do what he does. I'm not going to say no to his kids. I'm not going to close the door on his kids. I said, come on through. I'm happy to make the sacrifice. Because for me, Rodney, it's about healing. It's about coming together as a community. It's about being in a better place than we started.
Are you ready to be the new Shannon Sharp?
That could mean a lot of things.
Not in the sense of sleeping with 19-year-old white girls. I'm talking about from the standpoint of people wanting to come to you to continue the mess.
I don't want to ever be involved in mess. One thing I don't do is mess. What I do want to be a part of is healthy dialogue. That's it. I only want to be a part of healthy dialogue. I really, and all jokes aside, I sincerely believe. And have you watched the interview?
I didn't get a chance to watch it yet.
Have you subscribed to my Patreon?
No. You know what? You didn't text me back the last time, and I was going to ask you about that. I hope I didn't.
I think you texted the wrong number.
No, I texted you because I was trying to be suggestive and supportive, and I thought that I could, and I didn't get a response back, so I didn't want to, you know.
Had you subscribed to my Patreon then? You didn't see the interview because you didn't subscribe to my Patreon. But if you do, it was an 1.5-hour interview, and a lot of it was about how can we make this work? How can we heal you? How can you two come together? How can we facilitate that? What do you need? It was mostly that. You know, the little bits and pieces that might hit the internet, which I clipped up and put on the internet.
Right.
Are just a small part of it. But that's what you got to do to get people to watch it.
I get it.
You know, but and they were true and they needed to be said. You know what I mean? I didn't take anything out of context. But there's so much more to it. And I also reached out to Brian Sr. And I hope he and I can come together and talk.
I have an idea.
Okay.
Brian McKnight, and I know this from personal experience, is a phenomenal basketball player, or was at one point. Would you be interested?
Achilles, though.
Did he?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you can now compete with him because he was actually pretty good at LA Fitness in LA. Would you be interested in playing him one-on-one to resolve your issues and then perhaps...
He to be like loving basketball. Start missing layups, kicking it off his foot. Oh, I guess not my
day. Hey man, why don't we wrap this up? Because we
we
severely off course.
Oh God, you started this, man. I'm
severely
on no sleep,
off course.
so I'm forgive me for being extra silly. I haven't slept in a couple of days, man.
Yeah, me either, man. Me either.
Everybody, make sure you check out my Patreon though. I launched the Patreon for two reasons. One, I wanted to give the fans, the audience, the community, all these different spaces more stuff, more access. And so on my Patreon, you can find classic material that's nowhere else from me, interviews that I've done. For example, I put one of the last 2 interviews that Prodigy did before he passed away. I put up there, for example, just as one example, an interview I did with President Jimmy Carter, where we talked about scripture, and he said, that he thought Jesus would support gay marriage, and he unpacked that for us. So the idea is to give everybody who supports my work more stuff. But the other piece of it is to support independent media, independent content makers. When I got fired from CNN, I sort of decided that I never wanted to be in that corporate media world in the same way again. I didn't want to be that dependent on somebody else. I didn't want my ability to say something to depend on somebody in some office telling me that I can. And so I decided that we ain't got to do that no more. Let's make our own stuff. Let's have our own platforms. Let's have our own spaces. And that's what I do. But we go to corporate media because they give us a check. So if we support the journalists, if we support the media maker, if we support the content maker, then they don't have to do that. So the Patreon is for people who want me to remain an independent voice, unbought and unbossed voice, as Shirley Chisholm said. That's the goal. So if people can go to patreon.com/Marc Lamont Hill official, just go to Patreon. You can find me. I would appreciate it if they could join as a supporter or above, because it allows me to keep doing this work in the ways that I have been for the last 20 years.
Also, make sure y'all check out Marc's bookstore in Philly, Uncle Bobby's. You know, we want to also support all the businesses that continue to allow him to afford the property taxes in South Orange. Really important.
$400 a month for this room I rent. That's it.
Marc, thank you so much for coming on with us. We got to do this again.
Seriously. I would do this when if you're going to be here to maintain, because you give professionalism and care and knowledge and insight that is unmatched on any platform, including your own. I'll be here. I appreciate what you do. Thank you for being you. Seriously. I mean, even your background. Look at your background and look at his.
I'm in a hotel room.
You look like
Miami.
A professional journalist. He looks like he's drying out from a binge. Like,
yo.
Cut.
Yo. Oh, word, son. I can't even come back yet. We out of here, man.